I would guess that most people at some point in their life have contemplated what it's like to be able to do anything, to truly have superpowers, to be omnipotent, to be able to fly, to create planets, to travel throughout the universe in an instant, to melt anybody's heart, to know anything they want. Whatever it is, we've all had a dream of being a superhero, let's say. However, we don't truly understand what it means to be able to do anything, and I'd like to prove that to you in this video. Even in our wildest fantasies, by the way. So, we've got quite a few degrees of freedom within which we understand. We can imagine different constants, for example, and some people who go into deep areas of math start to imagine different variables even, like adding dimensions and trying to imagine the possibilities there. Even imagining infinite dimensions sounds like a problem someone will one day try to tackle at some point, and imagining the possibilities that go on in that realm. So can that person be the first person to truly start thinking like God about what's possible, understanding the awesome power of God better than anybody who's come before? Not at all. There is another level to this problem, and you don't need to be an Einstein to have thought about it at least once in your life. For example, it's connected to the famous question, do we see the same red as each other? Maybe if you were able to come into my body and look through my eyes and my brain, you would realize that I'm seeing things differently. You call that color green. Then you realize this sounds like an unanswerable question. You realize that it's related to the question, can I imagine a new color? If I could play around with color like I can play around with dimensions, I should surely be able to make new colors. But I can't. That's the problem. Colors don't work like that. They are fundamental and they are set in stone. They can't be played around with and they can't be described. Green is just green. You can't use other words or ideas to describe it. So yes, it is unanswerable. Only philosophers have tried to grasp with it, but it's not gone very far. It's also not just limited to color, by the way, but it applies to all existence. The most famous is the human experience. Love, for example, is not something that can be described and is a fundamental unit. All sensations, the five senses, emotions, pleasure and pain, even the experience of thought, intellect, ideas. Like, for example, we can't imagine a reality where there's no such thing as dimensions in the example above. We can't imagine coming up with a totally new concept, not declare a new axiom, but genuinely a fundamentally new concept, a new unit of intellect. We are fundamentally stuck in the meta paradigm that is composed of a unique set of fundamental units. These fundamental units are also behind the physical world. We will always hit some kind of a limit of things that just are. I mean, for example, some physicists are convinced that the fundamental unit is maths itself, for example. The universe is built of maths. We may be able to play around with these and imagine more under the same limitations of fundamental concepts to play with. And all we can do really is just play around with the things that just are. We can't imagine totally new qualia, as they're called in philosophy. If you want to look this up, it's called the knowledge argument. And it basically says that things like the conscious experience, all the things that we listed above, are known as qualia. And they are truly fundamental. They cannot be described because they have no underlying reality behind them. They have no mechanism by which they come about. They just sit on the very cusp of existence. Sof kol sof. We not being able to imagine plucking a new color from nothingness, because there are no smaller units that colors are built from, applies to everything. We are truly powerless in that sense. We can't even imagine a new color. Hashem can. He innovated it. He can do anything. His lack of limitation is beyond what we can imagine. If you just understood a whole new level of depth to the awesome power of God through this lesson, just take away this. You are still in the same place as before. You think you know something, but the truth is that the thing you don't know about the truth of how amazing he really is still just as unknown as before. And you will have to climb to yet another level of understanding again later on in your studies, only to find out that you still don't know. That's how it goes, I'm afraid. So how do we get to know Hashem? Well, that's for another video. I have got a video on Is the World a Simulation? Please watch that now. Because in the way that he does create the reality that he did innovate, he does it in what's called a system of perfect mushals. Everything is an analogy of him in the paradigm that he creates. And if we were to do the mitzvot and study the Torah inside that paradigm, we get to learn truth about the nimshal of the mashal, i.e. him. Very, very lofty, but if anybody would like to know where Qualia come up in Torah learning, because this video is just about Qualia, not about that. Firstly, the Sfirot are the ultimate Qualia. It says in Sefer Yetzirah that they are blima, meaning they have no ma, they have no substance at all. The gematria, by the way, of blima is one more than the gematria of Hashem's name, Elohim, because it's literally the very first step away from him into a created reality. They sit on nothing, literally, or they sit on his reality. That's what it means, because his reality contains all the colors, all the sfirot, infinite number of sfirot. It's only these 10 that he's manifest. Also, the Lubavitch Rebbe has got a sikha where he describes how the conscious experience is based on nothing. It truly sits as its own reality and based on nothing below it, because it sits on nothingness itself. That's what it means to be a qualia. A qualia is a unit of reality that is not composed of smaller parts. It is very fundamental in and of itself, and therefore it cannot be described, because it is the substance with which we describe things. We describe what we see using colors, but we can't describe those colors themselves. I hope that's clear, and I'm not surprised if it's not. This is a very deep topic. Please look up the knowledge argument, please ask questions, and please look out for more videos on this topic where I will try to explain it in different ways until it eventually sinks in, because it's very, very important and it's very, very interesting. Hashem truly is amazing, and when we understand just how amazing he is, through little things like this, we are in awe, our hearts soar, and our love only deepens for Hashem until we truly can become one with him. Shkoyach.